In the grand chess game of global power, some pawns are more valuable than others. But what if the pawn is a continent-sized island of ice, strategically positioned at the rooftop of the world? We're talking, of course, about Greenland. This colossal, desolate landscape has suddenly become the epicenter of a geopolitical storm, with the United States making its intentions shockingly clear. The question is no longer if the United States wants Greenland, but how it plans to take it. The world watches, holding its breath, as Denmark, the island's longtime sovereign, finds itself in an impossible position, caught between its closest ally and its own territorial integrity. So what is it about Greenland that has ignited such an insatiable desire in Washington? Its strategic location is a geopolitical jackpot. Nestled between the Arctic and Atlantic Oceans, Greenland is the ultimate high ground, and it serves as a critical node in the GI-UK, GAPTHA, Greenland, Iceland, United Kingdom choke point, naval gateway that any power must control to dominate the North Atlantic. For the United States, this isn't just about defense, it's about offense. Control Greenland, and you control the shortest air route between North America and Europe. You also control the primary maritime routes that Russia's formidable northern fleet would need to use to break out into the Atlantic. Furthermore, as the polar ice caps melt at an alarming rate, new, faster shipping lanes like the Northwest Passage are opening up, and Greenland sits as the gatekeeper to this new artery of global trade. The island is also believed to hold vast, untapped reserves of rare earth minerals, oil, and natural gas, the very resources that will fuel the economies and technologies of the 21st century. For the United States, Greenland is not just a piece of land. It is the key to Arctic dominance, a military bulwark against Russia and China, and an economic treasure chest waiting to be unlocked. The United States has moved beyond mere whispers and backroom discussions. Its actions and legal pronouncements are bold, aggressive, and unambiguous. Washington has reopened its consulate in Greenland's capital, Nuuk, after a nearly 70-year hiatus, pouring millions of dollars in aid directly into the local economy, a move that conspicuously bypasses the Danish government in Copenhagen. This isn't just diplomacy. It's a calculated campaign to win hearts and minds, to drive a wedge between Greenland and Denmark. Legally, American officials have begun to float audacious arguments, subtly questioning the legitimacy of Denmark's centuries-old claim. They point to the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, hinting that Greenland's potential future independence could give it control over a vast continental shelf. And by extension, the United States could be a better partner in securing those claims. The rhetoric has shifted from polite inquiries to a narrative that paints Denmark as a neglectful, distant colonial power, and America as the natural, powerful protector and benefactor that Greenland deserves. The message is chillingly clear. We are coming, and we are not asking for permission. With its intentions laid bare, how might the United States actually attempt to acquire Greenland? The playbook of modern power projection offers several chilling scenarios, each more audacious than the last. Let's analyze the possibilities. Could we see a direct military occupation? While it seems like something out of a Cold War thriller, it cannot be entirely dismissed. The U.S. already has a massive military footprint at Thule Air Base in northern Greenland. A swift, decisive operation to secure key infrastructure. Government buildings in Nuuk and ports could theoretically be executed with overwhelming force. The global outcry would be deafening, and it would shatter the post-World War to international order. But in a world where brute force is increasingly seen as a legitimate tool of statecraft, the unthinkable has become plausible. Washington might calculate that the strategic prize is worth the temporary diplomatic fallout. A more subtle and perhaps more likely scenario is a Maidan-style revolution. The United States could covertly fund and support pro-independence and pro-American movements within Greenland. By exploiting existing grievances against Copenhagen, fueling nationalist sentiment, and promising a future of unimaginable prosperity under American patronage, Washington could engineer a political crisis. We could see orchestrated protests, a manufactured political deadlock, and the rise of a charismatic leader who calls for a divorce from Denmark and a strategic partnership with the United States. It's a strategy of destabilization from within, a political coup dressed up as a popular uprising. Then there's the Russian Crimean model, a referendum. After a period of intense American propaganda and economic investment, A plebiscite on reunification or association with the United States could be arranged. With a population of only 56,000, influencing the outcome would not require an insurmountable effort. The United States could promise every Greenlander a substantial economic dividend, unparalleled infrastructure development, and the United States citizenship. Faced with such an offer, many might vote to trade their Danish passports for American ones. The United States would then declare the result a legitimate expression of self-determination, daring the world to challenge the will of the people. Finally, we could see a brutal campaign of economic warfare. The United States could impose crippling trade tariffs and sanctions on Denmark, targeting its most vulnerable industries. The message would be simple: your G20 economy is no match for ours. Cede Greenland or face economic ruin. This could be combined with the other measures, a hybrid warfare approach. The United States could simultaneously fuel internal unrest in Greenland, hold the Danish economy hostage, and keep the threat of military action in reserve. It's a multi-pronged assault designed to break Copenhagen's will, forcing it to the negotiating table to sign away its most prized territory under duress. The most likely path is not a single action, but a terrifying symphony of all these tactics, a relentless, overwhelming campaign of pressure from every conceivable angle. Faced with this existential threat, what military resources can Denmark actually muster to defend its territory? The reality is stark and sobering. Denmark's military presence in Greenland is minuscule, almost symbolic. It consists primarily of the Joint Arctic Command, with a handful of inspection ships, aircraft, and the legendary Sirius dog-sled patrol. We're talking about a few hundred troops at most, tasked with sovereignty patrols, search and rescue, and fishery inspections over an area of 2.2 million square kilometers. They are guardians, not a garrison. Copenhagen has announced plans to strengthen its Arctic capabilities, investing in new long-range drones, radar facilities, and military training. But these are modest, long-term enhancements. It's like bringing a slingshot to a tank battle. Against the full might of the United States military, Denmark's forces in Greenland would be a footnote, a speed bump on the road to occupation. Denmark's reaction to the growing crisis has been a mixture of public defiance and quiet panic. Officially, Danish leaders have flatly rejected any notion of selling Greenland, the Prime Minister famously calling the idea absurd. They have engaged in a diplomatic counteroffensive, trying to rally European support and reaffirming their unbreakable bonds with Greenland's people and government. Behind the scenes, however, there must be a profound sense of dread. Copenhagen is trapped. The United States is not just an adversary. It is Denmark's most critical security guarantor through NATO. How do you confront the very nation your entire defense strategy is built upon? Any forceful resistance could jeopardize Denmark's place under the American nuclear umbrella, leaving it exposed and vulnerable. This forces Denmark into a delicate, almost impossible balancing act, appeasing the United States to maintain the alliance, while simultaneously trying to protect its own sovereignty from that very same ally. This leads to the ultimate question: what about NATO? The North Atlantic Treaty is built on the bedrock of Article 5, the principle of collective defense. An attack on one is an attack on all. Greenland is unequivocally Danish territory and therefore NATO territory. If the United States were to launch a military operation against Greenland, it would technically be an attack on a NATO member. Would Article 5 be triggered? The scenario is mind-boggling. It would force every NATO member from the UK and France to Germany and Turkey to make an impossible choice. Side with the aggressor, the United States, which is the undisputed leader of the alliance, or side with the victim, Denmark, and risk the complete and total implosion of NATO. It is a crisis that the alliance was never designed to handle a conflict from within. Most European nations would likely be paralyzed, issuing strong condemnations but stopping short of any military action against the United States. NATO, as a credible defense alliance, would likely shatter, its founding principle exposed as a hollow promise when tested by its own hegemon. In the final analysis, the writing is on the wall. For all its proud history and sovereign rights, Denmark's ability to hold on to Greenland against the relentless, multifaceted pressure of a covetous United States is tragically limited. The disparity in power, military, economic, and political, is simply too vast to overcome. Denmark is outmatched, outmaneuvered, and increasingly isolated. It may win a few diplomatic skirmishes. It may delay the inevitable, but it cannot win the war. The cold, hard truth is that in this new era of great power competition, old rules and long-standing alliances mean little when raw ambition and strategic necessity collide. Greenland's fate appears to be sealed, not by the will of its people or its sovereign ruler in Copenhagen, but by the unyielding geopolitical hunger of its neighbor to the south.
Nice.
The question is no longer if Greenland will fall under American control, but when and what new world order will emerge from the aftershocks.